Welcome to the So Much More podcast, where we talk with people in the custom window treatment, soft home furnishings industry, and so much more. I'm your host, Ciel DeGuglielmo. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the So Much More podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little different, and it's one I really didn't even see coming. But thanks to one Ann Johnson for pointing it out and giving me a little push to celebrate, the podcast is approaching a really big milestone. And honestly, it still feels a little surreal to say out loud. It's going to be 500 episodes. When I started this podcast, I did not have a master plan. I was curious. I had questions. I had a desire to create something where our industry could talk honestly about this work that we do, about what goes well, what doesn't, what it actually takes to keep going, and how resourceful and resilient we all are. Over the years, this podcast has grown into something far bigger than a collection of episodes. It's really become a shared conversation. It's one that reflects the real lives, the real businesses, the real challenges behind the work that we do. And that's why today's episode exists. If you've listened for any length of time, you know that the podcast has never been about one voice. And I try to make sure that it's not about my voice. But again and again, I hear from listeners who tell me, I thought I was the only one struggling with this. I didn't realize other people felt this way. I'm so happy to hear someone else explain what I was experiencing. And the one that still gets me, I didn't know I was a workroom. Those moments matter, and they matter because someone else is always listening, someone who might be a few steps behind where you are now. As we approach the 500th episode, I realized that the most meaningful way to mark this milestone is not by listing past guests or highlighting specific episodes, but by capturing the impact that these conversations have had over time on the people in our industry. So here's what I would love for you to consider. For this milestone, I'm creating a curated episode that features listener and guest voices reflecting on what changed for them after listening to or being a guest on the So Much More podcast. I don't want polished testimonials. You don't have to worry about it being a soundbite. I really just want your honest reflections, your words, your voice, what impact listening to some of our colleagues has had on you. So I'm going to ask, if you want to participate in this, to choose one of the following questions. And these questions will be listed in the show notes, along with any other information you need. So don't panic if you're driving or sitting at your sewing machine right now. I want you to answer one of these questions. You don't need to answer all of them. Just pick the one that resonates the most with you and answer it. And I'm going to tell you how you can leave a voicemail or how you can send me an email about it. So the questions are, what changed for you after listening to or being a guest on the So Much More podcast? Change might have been practical, it might have been internal, it might have been really small but made a big impact. What changed for you? The second question is, what challenge were you facing at the time and where are you now? Challenge might be something that's still ongoing and you hear people talk about it on the podcast and go, okay, good, I'm not alone. Or you may have heard someone else's solution to the challenge you're facing and you conquered it because of someone else's words. The third question is, what one idea or moment stayed with you longer than you expected? I don't know about you, but sometimes there are things that people have said to me over the years or a method that someone has taught me, and it's like when songs repeat over and over in your head, it's called an earworm. So what comment, what method, what idea, what productivity tip did you get from someone that has changed for you and that has stayed with you and has made an impact on you? So those are the three questions, and they'll be listed in the show notes. What changed for you after listening? What challenge were you facing and where are you now? What one idea or moment stayed with you longer than you expected? So here's how to leave a voicemail. There's a link in the show notes to something called SpeakPipe. I'd love for you to use your phone, not your computer, because the phone tends to produce a much better audio quality. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. Shoot for 60 to 90 seconds. If you're unsure, the shorter, the better. At the beginning of the message, please share your first name, and if you're comfortable, where in the world you are. It doesn't have to be specific, but East Coast, Florida, England, whatever works for you. And just to be clear, you don't have to sound professional. You don't have to rehearse. This is not about perfection. It's about sharing the impact that hearing other people's stories has had on you. So if leaving a voicemail does not feel comfortable, please send a short response by email, and I will try to read some of those responses on the air. And if you're thinking, I don't know if my story is important enough, I want to gently push back on that. Sometimes people that I reach out to say, I don't know if my story is that interesting, or I don't have anything important to share. These are almost always the people who drop some truth bomb that resonates with so many listeners that they reach out to me afterwards. Often it's the quiet stories, the small shifts, and those moments of realization that resonate the most. Again, especially like I said earlier, I didn't know I was a workroom until I heard other people saying it. So if the So Much More podcast and the guests that have been on the podcast have played a role in your journey in any way, I really hope that you will consider participating. This 500th episode really is not about celebrating a number. And this is so funny. Just recently, someone in the Workroom Industry Network Facebook group must have been scrolling back and saw a really lovely comment written by my friend Sharon Gizzi about celebrating the 300th episode. And several people just saw the congratulations and jumped on, and your words were so kind. But I looked at it and I went, this was a while ago, and here we are at 500. So I'm stunned that so many of you still want to listen and hear from different people in our industry. But when I think about what this is really about, it's about the conversations and the people who make the conversations possible. That's what this milestone is about. I really do hope that you'll participate in this celebration of the stories of our industry, the stories of the colleagues, the stories of the people who have persevered in our industry. It would really mean a lot to me, and I think to everyone who listens. Please make sure that you do this by January 9th so that I'll have time to compile it for this podcast, which will air at the end of January of 2025. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community. I cannot wait to hear your stories. Please think about participating in this. I'm really excited about this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.